Disrespect is part of shame. People with shame become hypersensitive to disrespect. So if you look at complex trauma and shame, it comes out of an environment where you're not treated with respect, where you're neglected, where you're abused, where you're laughed at, where you're criticized, where you're abandoned. All of those communicate disrespect. Or you're compared with others. You're made to feel like you're a burden, that you're a failure, that you're a mistake. All disrespect. That's what a shame is I now feel disrespect for myself. I now feel I don't deserve respect. I have to earn respect. But what is important to understand is that disrespect hurts a lot. Disrespect spits on my value. It says I'm a zero. It is like pouring salt in a wound. Disrespect is a very, very painful emotion because it's a statement about my identity that's very negative. So for children growing up in complex trauma, disrespect can be verbal, but disrespect can also be how people treat me. They don't see me, they don't hear me, they ignore me. All of those, disrespect, it is so painful. And so what happens when a child's in an environment where they're experiencing disrespect every day, that's complex trauma, is the child begins to do a couple things. Number one, they believe that everybody looks down on them. Everybody sees them through the eyes of disrespect. They assume that now. Secondly, that then means when they go into relationships, they read disrespect into situations where there's no disrespect at all. So let me give you an example. I was teaching at a seminar, and afterwards people come up and talk to me and ask me questions. And so there was a line of people waiting to talk to me, and there's a person talking to me. All of a sudden, this person came up, and they tried to butt in front of the line, and they tried to interrupt the person who was talking to me, and they wanted to talk to me now. And I just very respectfully put up my hands, just, sir, if you could just give a minute here. I'm talking to this person, and I'll get to you very shortly. That person left in a huff. That person said to their friend, he just treated me with great disrespect. All I did was set a respectful boundary. But because of all of the disrespect they had experienced all their life, they now read disrespect into me setting a respectful boundary. So that is what happens all of the time with children coming out of complex trauma. But then it does a third thing. Now, if I sense disrespect, there's a powerful, intense reaction to stop it, to fight back. And so if I sensed respect, it could be true disrespect, or it could be disrespect that I read into situations where it's not even there. Now I am going to lash out. I am going to get angry. I am going to disrespect the other person. I am going to do all I can to hurt them worse than they're hurting me. So shame creates this powerful reaction every time that disrespect thing gets triggered. And wow, that can do a ton of damage in relationships, to children, to partners, to friends. That is the problem with this hypersensitivity to disrespect. You read it in to where it's not even there, and then you overreact and do a ton of damage. That leads to the next one. Shame also is hypersensitive to criticism. So these are connected, but a child where shame develops is often been criticized verbally, by being made to feel they aren't good enough, by not being seen, by not being heard, by being laughed at, by being teased, all kinds of different things. Many children grew up in families where it didn't matter how well they did, how hard they tried, it never was good enough. Their parents always found something to criticize about it. They always came up short. Now, most of us, if I know I have done something wrong that violates love, I can accept criticism because I know it's designed to help me. But boy, when I am doing my best, when my heart is pure and I am still being criticized, it hurts like crazy. It feels unjust. It feels wrong. It feels I can't win. It causes deep pain. It's very discouraging. And so again, criticism like disrespect hurts a ton. And we develop this powerful reaction every time we sense that it's coming, because what criticism is doing is exposing our shame. It is putting out for all to see how bad we fear we are. And so people, when they sense that criticism is coming, they can overreact. They can get very angry. They can lash out because they never want to look bad again. The problem is that they redefine what is a criticism. So whenever somebody gives them a different opinion, you're criticizing me. No, I'm giving you a different opinion. Whenever somebody gives you feedback in a situation, you're criticizing me. You're trying to make me look stupid. Whenever somebody points out a legitimate mistake that you've made, you're criticizing me. When somebody's trying to even be helpful in a situation, you're criticizing me. And so what begins to happen is they develop a belief that for you to not criticize me means that you must never disagree with me. It means that you must never call me on my stuff, even when I am doing stuff that violates love, that's clearly wrong. In other words, if you're not totally for me and agree with me 100%, then you're against me. Loyalty means that you will never criticize me. That's how they begin to frame it. That's how deep their shame is, that they can't look at themselves honestly. They can't have others look at them honestly. They can't see any of their flaws. They can't get any other opinions or help. They must be 100% right all the time, never challenged. That basically moves people into narcissistic, distorted thinking. And that does so much damage in relationships. The next one is what happens with shame is image becomes more important than reality. So what shame believes and concludes is that if people get to know the authentic me, they will never love me and accept me and respect me. In other words, based on my internal world, which is not good enough, I will never get love, acceptance, respect, and my needs met. Therefore, the only way to get love, respect, and get my needs met is by creating an external world that people respect, my image. So all the focus then goes to creating the perfect outward external world that they think people will respect, cause them to like them, then cause them to want a relationship with them, then cause them to meet their needs. So the image, what they present to the external world, now becomes all important. So they have to act perfectly. They have to be impressive in how they look, what they own, performance. They got to control all of their external world in order to get acceptance. Then if they have children, and many of the clients I work with have experienced this, when they went out in public, they had to be dressed to the nines. They had to behave with all the right manners. They had to show lots of affection to themselves. But behind closed doors, it was a totally different story. There was anger. It was chaos. But in public, you had to be the perfect family because that's how you got respect. So the bottom line again is this: people cannot get to know the real me. We got to keep a big part of our life a secret and only let people see what we want them to see, what we can control, what makes us look good. Do you realize that creates constant insecurity, constant fear that this house of cards that you created just might collapse? It feeds shame. And if something goes wrong, boy, that could mess up everything. So this whole image issue is big for many people because the alternative is become authentic, and that is super scary, but that is really what recovery is about, is becoming authentic. The next one is shame results in many insecurities. So shame basically begins to feel the need to hide parts of yourself that were rejected. So I got to hide my personality. I'm an introvert. I got to hide parts of my body because I got teased for that. So now what happens if I can't hide some parts of me? I can't hide my body. I feel insecure all the time about my body. What happens if parts of me that I've been hiding from my personality come out? So I start crying, or I get really sad, or I get angry, or I show fear. Then I get really insecure because I got punished for those before. I got made fun of for those before. And then what happens if the things that I turn to try to make me feel secure, to try to make me feel important, like my body, like my job, like my money, like my possessions, what happens if something threatens them? So I get older and I start losing my looks and I start losing my body and my figure. Or I come up to retirement and I'm going to lose my job. Insecurity, insecurity, insecurity. So shame produces many insecurities. Insecurities about every aspect of you that has been criticized, made fun of, that you've rejected and hated about yourself, things that you've built to try to build security into your life, but are actually things that could be threatened. All of those cause a person to have deeper insecurity. But there's a second piece that comes out of complex trauma. What is it that causes a child to feel security? It's not just having a secure external environment. It's having a rock to firmly connect to. Mom and dad who are safe, who are reliable, who are trustworthy. When a child has a rock, they can have an external world that's not totally secure, but they still feel secure because they're connected to the rock. So what happens if you can't connect? You feel insecure all the time. Complex trauma produces insecurity at that level as well. Then if they have a major failure in their life, they work away at something and fail, that creates insecurities. Then if they're abandoned, that creates deep, deep insecurities. So they can get insecurity from all kinds of different sources. That comes out of shame and complex trauma. The final one is they promise more than they can deliver. So shame basically says that people won't love me and respect me for who I am, just the way I am. The only way they'll respect me is if I seem bigger than I am. So I need to promise more than I can deliver. So the bigger they can make themselves, the more they think they're going to be liked and accepted. And so let's promise the moon to everybody. Let's promise that, oh yeah, say yes to everybody, I can do this. Let's build ourselves up, make ourselves look really big. They set themselves up to disappoint people because they can't deliver. They're not Superman. And often they end up making all these promises and spending all kinds of time trying to wiggle out of those promises because they know they can't do it, and making excuses for why they can't do it and still try to save face. So people from complex trauma with deep shame often end up promising more than they can deliver. So that's shame aspect. I hope it just fills out your thinking that of how complex trauma has affected you, that you can begin to spot some of these areas in your life and go, oh yeah, I can see now that that's not healthy, that ultimately feeds shame, hurts relationships, hurts me. I want to change.